Make it 1 or 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever, and then get right at it.
Reduce their time to hire from 21 to 14 days just by making one simple change.
Giving them a reason not to really hang up.
Add in any jokes or little humorous bits into the conversation.
You stand firm and you take it and you go as far as you can. Welcome back, guys, to another video. In this video, we want to continue talking about cold calling, which still remains an amazing channel to implement when it comes to clients. More specifically, you can of course use this for candidates as well, but we want to go over some of the best practices and tips that you can incorporate right now so that you can up your conversions and get those conversations going. Happy to have Ryan here, who is on our team, also one of the master coaches here at the Recruiter School. Any initial thoughts here, Ryan, about cold calls?
Yeah, they still work, is what I'll say. I know we're hearing a lot of discourse these days about, do you need to make cold calls and this and that? And overall, if you do them, you will get results, is what I say. So happy to dive into some best practices and things you should make sure you include when you're dialing through those lists.
Beautiful, beautiful. So first things first, Ryan, validate ICP. What do we mean by this?
Yes, so your ICP, or your ideal customer profile, this is a super crucial step that you need to take before you even pick up the phone. So before you even start dialing, you got to make sure that your list of people you have to call is targeted. You know, if it's not targeted and it's just a loosely made list with not a lot of attention, it doesn't matter how good you are on the phones. It doesn't matter how good of an opener you have. You're just not going to get the results that you want. So the most crucial thing before we get even to the mechanics of the call is just ensure that the list you have in front of you is a really well qualified targeted list. And so you may ask, what does that mean? You know, what does a good list look like? And so a couple of things on what a good list looks like. Firstly, you want to ensure that the person you're calling is likely a decision maker. Now, for a lot of situations, you're likely not going to know if this person is the exact decision maker. Maybe you have a couple of people in mind, but you don't want to be calling people that you know are just not going to be involved in the decision to purchase your product or service. And so do some research beforehand, ensure that, okay, this is, someone higher up in the company would likely have some power to make decisions on whether or not to use my service. Secondly, is do some more research on the company as well. If you are a recruiter in the supply chain logistics space and you're calling a company that all they do is finance, that's not the right match, right? They can be like, oh, well, I'm the best logistics and supply chain recruiter out there, but if that's not what they need, then no point in you making that call. So ensure that the company is aligned in what you're looking for, and ensure that the people at that company you're calling are likely going to be decision makers. Anything you can do to use some data tools to just ensure that you are doing everything you can to have the best data possible so that it is.
Are you struggling with getting responses from clients? Are you an established recruiter who is struggling to break 6 figures and beyond? Are you looking to start recruiting part-time and you don't know how? Do you feel burned out and stuck spending hours and hours each day in manual tasks like sourcing and outreaching and feeling like you have no time to actually run and grow your business? I am absolutely happy to announce that we have launched our own recruitment, educational, and coaching program to help you on your journey. We made sure that everything I've learned in the past 10 years, the tips, the strategies that really helped me build multiple 7 figures of placements on my own desk with some of the best companies in the world will be included in there. We'll also be including things like how you can build an acquisition system that brings in clients every month to your agency hands-free, how you can maximize the probability of a positive close during negotiations, how you can automate and outsource your day-to-day operations so that you don't have to spend hours per day researching or sourcing, how you can figure out the new and modern way to scale your agency that minimizes risk and maximize your upside potential. And we've also included much, much more. The best thing about this is not only will you be getting amazing content, but we will also handhold you and be with you every step of the way to make sure that you are held accountable and you crush your goals. We'll also share with you our own tech stack, tools, and plugins we actually use, plus everything else we know about automation and AI to help you save time, work smarter, and not be a slave to your business. The exciting news is that we've actually rolled this out to a select few people earlier this year, and I'm excited to see them well on the way to multiple 6 figures, with some breaking $30,000 to $50,000 per month already. So if you're interested to be a successful recruiter that can dominate in any market conditions, make sure you click on the link below to chat with another member of our team, and we're happy to chat with you to see if we can help you out. Make sure you jump on this really quickly. See you on the other side.
And lastly is ensure that you get good phone numbers and good data for these contacts, because this is one thing that you'll never have 100% success rate with this. You are going to get some out-of-date numbers or disconnected numbers or wrong numbers here and there, but anything you can do to use some data tools to just ensure that you are doing everything you can to have the best data possible so that it is as likely as possible that the person you're calling is actually aligned to the number that you have down for them. So quick example for this one is, let's say I'm a recruiter and I specialize in placing software engineers at SaaS startups, under 50 people. A good list would be CEOs or founders of those startups. SaaS startups startups under 50 people. I know that those companies fit within my niche of startups and SaaS startups under 50 people. And I know that a CEO or founder is likely going to be a decision maker who would be able to say yes to buying my service. So before you even pick up the phone, it's super crucial that you validate your ICP and that their list of numbers you have to call is a really qualified and well-targeted list.
This is super important. This is the reason why we made this number one. If you don't do this correctly, the subsequent points really make no sense. The only other thing I want to add here is whether you are making the list yourself, you're procuring it from somewhere else. And also, small note on that, just be careful. I know there are a lot of services out there where you're buying these lists and stuff like that. Some of them are good, most of them are bad. For the main point I want to make right now is like they have to be targeted, qualified, but also fully updated. A lot of these times, like you get these lists, companies don't even exist anymore, or more importantly, companies are not even hiring. You're just calling in, really making it max difficulty level when you don't have to, when you're actually talking to the right person and you're calling companies that are actually perhaps actively hiring or they're in your space. They're doing a lot of postings that are active. And so just make sure that if you're going to put yourself out there and make that work and make that effort, that it just kind of hopefully would impact the needle as much as possible. Okay. Number two is when you're doing a cold call, it's so important to just get right to it. There is no really like an opportunity in the beginning just to kind of talk random stuff and really connect on random topics before getting into it. Whether you have experience in sales and recruitment or not, most of us would have probably heard something similar like when you're doing a cold call, you really only have like the first 10 seconds to actually make an impression. And if you're cold calling someone, meaning you're calling someone that don't even know who you are, if you're not like getting straight to the point and you're just beating around the bush or you're just talking about random stuff, you will absolutely get hung up on, right? So people are busy. They have their lives. Perhaps they're on the way to work. Perhaps they're at work. You are interrupting their day. So please have respect and empathy and make sure that if you're calling them, you get right to it, right? So if you engage with someone, perhaps you can kind of ask about how the day's going, how the morning's going, maybe if they saw the big game last night, but keep it short and sweet and get to that script as fast as possible. I think icebreakers are super important, but where a lot of people go wrong is that you just keep talking about that sports game. You keep talking about that celebrity or whatever news that happened this morning. Like make it 1 or 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever, and then get right at it. And so while you don't have to dive necessarily into the pitch, first thing as we say here, you want to make it clear up front what your reason for calling is. We give you an example that you can kind of use as a rough thumbnail. Hey name, I'll keep this super quick and brief. I help SaaS companies like yours fill GTM roles. I saw on LinkedIn or wherever that you guys were hiring a GTM role at your New York City office. I want to see if that's something you're looking to do, right? Just short, sweet, to the point, adding context. And that way you can kind of minimize the chance of you getting hung up on. Is there anything else that you want to add to this, Ryan?
The only thing to add to this is that when it comes to getting right to it on a cold call, everyone is going to be a little bit different with this. And so there's not one hard or fast rule of, okay, don't spend X number of seconds talking about this, then talk about your pitch. Everyone has different opinions on that. So this is more of a general guideline of just how to balance the intro to the call. You don't want to hop on first thing and say, hi, will you buy my service? You don't want to do that. But at the same time, you don't want to have this person be on the call for 3 to 5 minutes until they know the real reason that you're calling. So you really just got to find that middle ground. But really at the end of the day, like Preston said, you are interrupting their day. And so just respect their time. If they don't know who you are, this is the first time you're calling them and they pick up, it's better to get to the point quicker than to hold off. Maybe once you build that rapport in future calls, you can have some more, icebreaker time. But in general, the sooner you can really dive into the meat of it, of the call, the better.
I love it. Next one, give them a reason not to hang up. This is similar to the previous reason, but Ryan, what are your thoughts here?
Yes. And so when you're thinking about a cold call, I always like to think about it as every 10 seconds, you have to earn the next 10 seconds of the call. And that goes on for the entire cold call. And so it's not just the intro, you got to get them to hear your spiel, but then as you're giving the spiel, you got to have them hear your final pitch. And you got to just get them enticed and give them a reason to not hang up on you. Because if they sense that, okay, this guy, I don't know who this is, I have no credibility, this is the first time they're calling me, they're really annoying, and this is out of the blue, like they're going to hang up on you. You have to give them a reason to stay on the line. And so a big way to do that is to kind of pique their curiosity or give them like a mini hook, if you will. And so an example is, say you're calling up about your recruiting services and you say, hey, prospect, I'm not sure if this is relevant, but we actually just helped one of our clients in your space, in the logistics and supply chain space, reduce their time to hire from 21 to 14 days just by making one simple change. Can I share with you what that change is? And so you want to get them to think, oh, yeah, like what is that? I'm curious to know. And so they stay on the phone and then you can get in further into the conversation. And so the more you can do to add little notes to pique their curiosity throughout the conversation, the longer they're going to stay on the phone. And then the better the conversation you're going to have, the more of a relationship you'll build and the likelier chance you have of setting up a proper meeting and closing them as a client. So you don't just got to think about the first 10 seconds of how do I keep them on the phone? That is something you got to be asking asking throughout the entire cold call. They can hang up on you anytime, and a lot of them will. So you got to think, what can I say or what intrigue can I plant here to get them to have the interest to stay on the call for the long term?
With cold calling in general, there's just so much like low trust now with the robo calling and spam calling and AR calling now on the up and up. Like most people just cringe when they get like a call that they're from someone they don't know, right? Where it's coming from. And so if you're cold calling, again, it's still such a powerful tool, but you got to be human, you got to be personal. And a lot of the red flags that would make you cringe, like being robotic, not getting to the point, not being empathetic and respectful, if it'll turn you off, it will certainly turn someone else off, right? But I think while this is super important, keep it simple. I'd rather have an icebreaker maybe in the beginning and then just get to that script, and you can always iterate over time. I don't want you to feel like, oh man, I have to overcomplicate this. So after a sentence, maybe like give them another like icebreaker or another reason not to hang up. Try to really kind of make this too complicated than it actually should be. Keep it simple first. Like find a good cadence, put in the reps, do like maybe 20 to 50 calls, get your feet wet, and you can always get better and better and better over time. But having a good icebreaker or getting to the point in the beginning, and then of course, as we talked about here, giving them a reason not to really hang up is super key to obviously keep mindful during that call as well. But a lot of it is like what you're saying, the value, how you're approaching it, the tone, and really making them have that feeling that we're here to help them, not to take from them and not to interrupt their day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking about, interrupting their day, to your point, Preston, you are, shoehorning yourself in and you're saying, hey, talk to me right now. And so that is going to trigger people's defenses. They're going to be like, who is this person calling me? Some people might perceive it as a little bit threatening. You're calling them out of the blue. They don't know who you are. A lot of people these days don't like talking on the phone, even to people they know really well. And so for someone they don't know really well, that feeling is amplified. And so you want to do everything you can to keep, I don't want to say keep the energy down, but keep any kind of tension down. Make sure that they have their guard down with you and just try to keep it casual or just a relaxed conversation. And so there's a couple of ways you can do that. The first is using humor. If you throw in a joke there, then that can try to ease the tension. So for an example we have here is as an opener, like, hey, Preston, lucky you, it's 9 a.m. and you're getting a cold call. What a way to start the day, right? That just instantly disarms them because you're acknowledging, okay, I know a lot of people don't like cold calls, but lucky you, you're getting one right now. I will say on the humor point, if you are not super outwardly humorous and that's not something you're super comfortable with, I would say don't force it. Don't try putting in, one-liner jokes that don't feel authentic to you. Because again, you want to be relaxed and you want to have your guard down as well. But if you can, add in any jokes or little humorous bits into the conversation, that will make both you and them feel more relaxed. A second way to keep their guard down is use a permission-based opener. And this is again in the vein of, you don't want to come off threatening. You want to just ensure that they feel as relaxed as possible in this conversation. And so what you can do is before you move to the next step of any call, you can say, hey, is that all right with you? And so for an example, this is one of a permission-based opener up front is like, hey, Preston, I'll be honest with you. I'm making a cold call right now. This is a cold call. Do you want to hang up or will you give me 30 seconds to explain the reason I'm calling? And so if the person was really not about it, they were uncomfortable, they did not want to have the conversation, they could hang up. Not ideal, but you give them that option so they feel like they have some control over the conversation. And then they are giving you a little bit of buy-in. They'll be like, oh, okay, I'll give you 20, 30 seconds. And then if you have that permission, then it's no longer you barging in to interrupt their day. It's okay, how can I respect this time? They want to hear my 20-second pitch. Let me dive into it from there. So anything you can do to keep the conversation relaxed, keep their guard down, that is just going to lead to a better conversation on the phone.
Yeah, I really love the second point here because everyone knows it's a cold call, but by you actually saying, hey, let's be honest, this is a cold call. Sorry to be ruining your morning, and being brutally honest, it's like, it's on the nose, tongue in cheek, and people give you, an extra 5-10 seconds because of that, right? And so just be respectful and be empathetic and treat people the way that you want to be treated. And that kind of goes and segues to our next tip, how important it is to really just sound personable and human and casual, right? If you were to get a phone call and you're like, hey, my name is Preston, I'm a professional recruiter, and we have identified a job opening at your company, and I would like to formally request that we can fulfill this significant task for you. Like, they're just going to hang up on you in the first 5 seconds, right? You want to be casual. You want to talk to another human being as if you're talking to another human being. You don't want to be too glib, right? You don't want to talk as if you're talking to your best friend, but just talk regularly, be human, chill out a little bit, calm down, right? Take a deep breath and sound normal, because the more that you can do that, then the more you're going to put them at ease. And people want to work with people. They don't want to work with robots. They don't want to work with AI. So again, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. We've given you some tips in the previous points on like how you can structure your opener. You literally only have time, 5-10 seconds. Just get to it, but just be casual and don't be too salesy, because no one likes that, right? That's not how you convert or have a conversation. So remain professional. And I think the biggest thing is when you're talking, keep in mind your pacing. Don't talk too fast, don't talk too slow. Maybe even before you cold call, you can record yourself on your phone or a camera and just hear yourself talk. Another small tip is when you're talking, smile while you're talking, because while doing that, you're actually triggering your brain to sound more positive and chilled and kind than as if you weren't smiling, where it's so easy to sound like stern and cold and robotic instead. So that's like a huge tip that I've always used when it comes to cold calling is smile before the call, smile on the call, and you just come off, doesn't matter what you say, but your just tonality and feeling and vibes just come off so much better.
Yeah. And I love this point because, Preston, it's so much easier said than done. I know that for a lot of people, myself included, cold calling gives you anxiety, right? It's nerve-wracking. Like, what are they going to say? Are they going to hang up on me? And so when I'm cold calling, like my heart is racing the entire time. And so we all know, oh, it's best to talk a little bit slower and talk casually and talk more relaxed. But if this is something that you don't actively work on, it's super easy to just fall in this flow where you talk really quickly and you talk really nervously and you just get right to the pitch. And, no one wants to have a conversation like that. And so one thing I always do while I'm cold calling, or also especially while I'm dialing, because that's when I notice the nerves will hit in the most, is while the phone is ringing, I just take some deep breaths in, out, slow it down so that if a person picks up, I can just, go on to the conversation. And so it's super easy to be like, hi, Preston, I'm calling you because you have this role open. I want to fill it. And you just kind of, mumble over your words and then it's not going to go anywhere. But do everything you can and very intentionally take some deep breaths before and while you're dialing so that when they do pick up the other line, you can have a more relaxed approach to the conversation. So definitely easier said than done, but with practice and doing some of these deep breaths and smiling while you're calling, you'll be able to come off a lot more relaxed, casual, and professional on your cold calls.
Last point is the key, guys. There's no point in making any calls or any outreach if you don't know what the point of it is, right? So what is like the ideal end result that you want to see from the cold call? Is it to get a meeting? Is it to set up another call? Is it to send them an agreement or something? Like you need to be able to establish that first and then kind of reverse engineer it and making sure like that call leads to your intended result by controlling it. And if you don't do it, there's a high chance they're going to hang up on you. You're going to have to just continue chasing them via texting or via emailing or calling them again. And you're just adding so much more extra time and steps when you don't normally have to do that. If you can go in there, be surgical and kind of know exactly what to say and how to structure it. So cold calling, as we say on this slide, it's a dance, right? It's like two people who don't know each other. You're feeling each other out and it's all through tonality and what you say and how you pick up that role, how you talk to them. That will determine whether or not they hang up on you in the first 3 seconds or not. And if you get hit with the question, answer it succinctly, but quickly move on to your next question. You always want to assume, like Ryan said earlier, that you can get hung up on any second. And so if the call gives you an extra 2 seconds, you have an extra 2 seconds that you're still alive, make the most of it and keep going. If there is something, an obstacle that comes into the call, maybe like they're trying to push you off, just be like, hey, I only need about 2 more minutes and get back into the call and keep going. I think the second most common way that people get pushed off on calls is if you let it, right? Because a lot of times they may not hang up on you, but they may try to push you off saying, hey, I got to run. Hey, can we set up another time? Hey, like I can't do this right now. And you got to do your best that like if you have the opportunity with another human being on the line, you stand firm and you take it and you go as far as you can. Just be like, hey, respectfully, this will only need 2 minutes of your time. Or hey, I can't just do a search off the job rec because I just have a couple more clarifying questions I would love to run by you. Or hey, I can't just send you cans because I don't know what the steps are, the cadence. Do you guys use an ATS? And I would hate to waste your time. And then get back to the call. Always get back to the call, right? So think of like a cold call as like a highway and it's always going to try to push you, or maybe a trunk of a tree, and things are going to try to push you to branch out, right? But you got to do your best to kind of get back to the main trunk of the tree and keep steady and keep going into the direction that you want to go into, which is straight up, right, to your intended result. And whatever branches that you get pushed to the side, you answer them, you solve them, and you get back at it. And so being able to ask them guiding questions allows you to maintain that flow and direction of the call. Worst case scenario, like if you cannot reach your intended result, I would highly recommend try to find another time, either later today or maybe the following day, to continue that conversation so you can pick up that role accordingly, go through what you need to go through, talk about your terms, and then have them sign the agreement. But if you can't do that, don't do it. Try to do all of that in that one call as much as possible to maximize it. So here's an example that we gave you, like, hey, how are you currently handling hiring for your team internally or recruiting agencies? And whatever they answer, be like, great, cool, that's awesome, and keep going to the call. So most importantly, guys, do whatever you can to reach that finish line. It's not going to be smooth most of the time. They're going to come with excuses. They're going to try to find a way to push you off. Stand firm, stand strong, and keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, Preston, you're making the cold call. This is your conversation. conversation. You got to wrangle it. You got to control it. You really are in charge here. And you don't want to give up that control because then they'll so easily just push you off the phone. And so I think it's a good practice to have either a script if you like, or just a quick list of a couple questions that you want to ask during the conversation. And so if they start taking you on one of those branches, like you mentioned, you can look at the list and be like, all right, I know I need to ask about XYZ thing. Let me guide the conversation back that way. So I always like having something in front of me, either on a screen or a piece of paper, just to give me that guide of where do I want this conversation to go. And then I just ensure when I'm on the phone with these prospects that I'm calling, I do everything I can to, as you said, keep the conversation flowing in the right direction. So ensure that this is your call. You're the one who stays in control of where the conversation leads.
I love it. Well, as you guys can see, we covered a good number of tips from making sure that you're targeting the right people, your list is up to date, you have qualified people that you're talking to, you're not wasting time, you're getting right at it, but also not forgetting to keep it personal and making sure you're not coming off robotic. Play around with their hooks, play around with different icebreakers, but don't get carried away with it. Get back to the call, be human, be casual, have credibility when you're continuing a conversation with them, and most importantly, try to get to point B as much as you can. Things will push you. Things outside of your control will happen. Like, oh my God, I'm being roped to a meeting right now. Or, oh my God, my phone's about to die. Do your best to be like, hey, I only need like literally 30 more seconds to finish this call, and do your best. If not, always have a plan B, like result already established, whatever that may be for you, whether it's to set up another call or a meeting or whatever. And then my second biggest tip is if you're really truly being pushed off, try to get that confirmation, that follow-up agreed on while with them on the phone before you let them go. Like, try to get a time and a date and be like, hey, I will send you an invite. I'll see you there. Try to get that established before letting them go, because if you can't do that, then you're going to have to follow up with them on email saying, hey, what time and date works best for you? They could easily ignore you. They can easily ghost you. Whereas if you do it correctly on the phone, you already have it confirmed on the calendar, higher chance of them actually going to be there and show up. You did all this research, all this effort to get here. We want to do what we can help you to get that job done and pick up that job officially. Ryan, any last words?
Yeah, just to close it out, I love that dance analogy. Cold call is like a dance. You want to make sure you have the right dance partner. You want to ensure that you use their time wisely. You want to ensure that they want to dance with you as well. You want to keep it casual. You want to keep it relaxed, but also you want to maintain control of where the dance is going. So if you can use these tips while you're making your future cold calls, I guarantee you're going to get more responses than you have been previously.
Perfect. Well, I hope you enjoy. I hope you guys crush your calls. Please share with us the experience down in the comments below, and we will continue our best to make great, exciting, valuable content for you guys. See you on the next one.